We are. Hi,
Hi,
I'm Nick,
I'm Jill,
and we're Hipstrings.
Well-
So this is episode 8.
Yeah,
It is sometime in August 8th?
August 8th.
August 8th, 2017.
We're lucky today. 888.
Oh my. Wait, what's the 30th? Oh, because the month.
Because it's
Yeah,
episode 8,
Episode 8.
8th month, 8th day.
Right, wrong year.
Next year.
No, that'll be 18. We need to wait for the 18th month then.
There is no 18th month.
Damn it. All right, well, still, 888 is pretty good.
Yeah.
Not quite as good as Lucky Sevens.
Mm-hmm. But I think people would get annoyed if we didn't do another podcast until 9/9.
Yeah. Well, we'll do that eventually. Wait, no.
But it won't be episode 9
Won't be
then.
episode 9. We just need to have, like, what? Maybe we do 717. No, we can't do 717. All right, we're going way off topic. Hi
Yeah,
again.
hi.
So, this episode, we're going to be talking about sweaters.
Yeah.
Because,
Believe it or not, winter is coming.
yeah, well, fall is coming. Winter's
Fall
not
is
coming
coming.
yet.
But now is the time to think about sweaters.
And, especially now that we were in the pool earlier today.
And it was cold.
It was cold. It was definitely just on the border of what acceptable for a pool temperature is, but yeah. So, one of the other reasons is, we've been talking about these sweaters that we've been doing for a while, and it's because we're making Rhinebeck sweaters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before we get to that, though, why don't you talk about your first Warp Twisted and Loopy project?
Yes. So now we're in Warp, Twist, and Loopy. I don't want to lose that tapestry needle. So last night, I bound off on my second distillation cowl. So this is it in handspun, in the Blue Heron signature blend, and coordinating color pack. So
I really think these show off how much cooler the hand-spun versions are. Definitely hoping
They
to
have
get
more
knitters.
character.
They do, and I hope to get knitters more excited about.
people have been buying sets.
Yeah.
So I hope that we see a lot more of these around. Besides, the whole dozen I'm going to make
For yourself.
for myself.
Well, the other thing that I really like about this is, I don't know, did we talk about the fact that you don't have to worry about, now you're going to mess up the mic. You don't have to
being
worry
very
about
careful.
you don't have to worry about the thickness of your yarn when you're
Yeah.
spinning it, right? It's much nicer, much more lenient of a pattern when you're dealing with doing a hand spun
Yeah.
because of the ruching that you have on the individual
Because I think
strips.
for this one, the blend is spun pretty solidly fingering weight. But I think a lot of the merino fluffed up to about a sport weight.
Pluffed up.
But I still have a little bit, I have leftovers of all my solid colors and lots of the signature blend left. So it is a very forgiving pattern for hand spun.
Yeah, so it's a good spin to knit project.
Yeah, if you've never tried to spin for a particular project, I think it's a good start because it's not as intimidating as trying to spin for like a sweater. But it is definitely a larger project and something where you do have to pay attention a little bit to your thickness as you're spinning.
Okay. Well, so then, as promised, sweaters.
You can talk first.
Do you want me to start with my sweater? Okay. Well, this is probably boring for everybody to.
No,
get
there's
the-
a body.
Yeah, but I mean, just the fact that I'm like, now I've got 2 sleeves. But yes, as Jill said, I've started on the body. Where's my new ball that you got me? Because one of the things, since these were hand dyed, one of the things that I'm doing is to make sure that every other row that I'm doing is alternating between two different balls. That way we make sure that I don't have a slightly different color in one section, and then when I run out of that ball, it's a slightly different color in another section. If I alternate row by row, it becomes more blended, like what Jill is doing. So,
and I will say my like little knitting hack of this is if you start using both skeins and alternating them at the same time, there's a chance that you'll run out of both skeins at the same time and you'd have another awkward transition to your next set of balls. And so what I will do is actually all of my ribbing, so like my cuffs and my hems, I will do just using one ball because the ribbing will break up any concentration of color. Or it's okay if the ribbing looks a little bit different than the stockinette because it's going to no matter what. And so that kind of offsets my ball. So I will run out of one ball before I run out of the second ball.
So you don't have that big block change.
Yeah.
So then what do you have? You have a body too.
I have a body too. So I have Adrian's crazy heart. I am just a couple rows away from finishing his body, and then I already have finished sleeves. So I will be doing the yoke soon.
What colors are you planning for the yoke?
Oh gosh, I have them all here except for one. So I have cobblestone, which is the one I don't have here. I have rooibos, sea star, goldenrod, and then bone. So
nice. I'm excited to see how you transition those together.
Yeah, Adrian's the one member of this family that really likes warm colors.
It'll stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Literally. So we're using a different web camera this time, and you can see a little bit of our bags. We don't have any other projects, by the way, to talk about this week because
talk about bags.
Because we've been focusing on the sweaters and I guess taking a bit of a break from everything else.
No, I really want to get these sweaters done because we have 2 more to knit after these.
Yeah.
And like 2.5 months to do it.
We could do it. Plenty of time.
But it needs some project monogamy.
Plenty of time. But the reason why I mentioned the camera and the bags is because or the camera, I should say, is because you could see the bags better in this camera because it's a little bit wider angle, I guess. And we wanted to show them off because we've had them sort of sitting on the edge and not talked about them. These are bags from Steel City Stitcher. And
they're actually custom bags I had her make for Christmas last year.
And I really like the little details that she's put into them. I mean, just in general, all of her bags, they're fantastic. They have some
Progress Keeper charms that coordinate with the theme of the bag.
Well, you should say what Progress Keeper is. You know what that means.
It's a little not quite. So they have little lobster claws on them, and you can use them to check like how much progress you've been making on stuff, like, or to measure if you need to knit for like 6 inches, you would put it at the beginning of that, and then you have a marker that you can measure from.
I was going to mention those last because they're cute and they coordinate with the bag as you said. This is obviously a TARDIS bag, and she's got a couple of different TARDISes. I've got a cute little sword for my Legend of Zelda bag. Mm-hmm. But then, go ahead and show your insert.
So there's pockets. So there's 3 pockets in here, and she also includes a little notions bag with a keychain.
And a...
and she sent
DPN
us matching
holder.
DPN. I don't have mine in this bag.
I have mine.
But and
And
there's
I'd never seen ones made like this before her, but they're good for holding the DP ends, but they also work as if you've got a sock that you're working on and you need to stick out while you hold the DP ends. It works great for that as well. So we just wanted to give a shout out to
because
her.
these have like a little bit of batting in them.
Yeah.
So they are nice and hold up.
And I don't know anything about her schedule, but she will be at Indie Knit and Spin.
Yes, this fall.
Which I guess that's our first little secret release there.
Yeah. And so Roberta, who's the sewist behind Steel City Stitcher, she came to the studio this past weekend and dropped off some ball sacks for me to try out.
How can you say it with a straight face?
Because I'm a knitter.
Okay.
And so they are good for holding one like 100-gram ball. They have little snaps that you can use to adjust the tension on the ball. And they have been very helpful. I just started using them yesterday to control my balls.
As you can see, she's got 2 ball sacks for the 2 balls that she's using for alternating the stripes.
Yeah, and it's been made it much easier to move this project around the house.
Yeah. So maybe we talk a little bit about first do we want to talk about the legend of the Rhinebeck sweater, or do we want to talk about?
I don't know that there's really a legend more than
what
it's
is it?
Just a
right.
Rhinebeck sweater.
And why are we doing this?
Well, I don't know, but
you don't know why we're doing this?
I know why we're doing this. It's because we're going to Rhinebeck as a family.
Okay, and so why do people? What's special about going to Rhinebeck and having to have a sweater?
I don't know why, but people make Rhinebeck sweaters.
Okay, so what is the Rhinebeck sweater?
It is a sweater that you make that you will wear at Rhinebeck.
There you go.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Well, I mean, it's not. For people who've never been to Rhinebeck, it's a thing, right? So
it is a thing.
The whole point I'm trying to drag out of you is the fact that it's a thing. People will make special sweaters for going to Rhinebeck. So if you are planning to go to Rhinebeck, you've never been there before, bring a sweater that you've knit, and because people will see you if you're wearing a sweater and ask you, oh, did you make that? And then you get to talk about it, and it's a good icebreaker for people, right?
Yeah, I think generally it's one of the few festivals that occurs when it is sweater weather.
See, there's more to it now. Yeah.
It still seems pretty self-explanatory.
Okay, fine. So I guess that's I killed that topic real fast.
We should push indie sweaters.
What?
Indie knitting spin always happens when it is sweater weather, because it's November and February.
Except when we get an Indian summer in February. It was like 70 last time.
Rhinebeck was almost 80 last year.
All right. So I'm just starting my second ball, and I'm going to do what all knitters fear, which is pulling out that center. And this didn't come out too bad, and there's a good reason for that. So we want to talk about wonky balls.
Yes.
As you described them. So this ball didn't come out bad.
It's a fairly good ball.
This other ball I'm working on is a bit of a mess. It's I don't even know what's going on here.
So a couple months ago, I got a new ball winder for the shop. And I did something to it, and I was trying to lubricate it because it was very stiff. And after lubricating it, it's been making wonky balls to the point where it has now been taken out of the studio.
It's been put in timeout.
It's been put in timeout because it is not behaving.
Bad ball winder.
It has taught me a lot about ball winders and what creates a decent ball winder, what is important in a ball winder. And tensioning is extremely important for a ball winder. So this one is just very picky about tension. So this ball winder taught me that the tension that you have your yarn on the Swift matters, and that you want your yarn to actually be a little bit loose. It'll pull off the Swift easier. And now I'm fighting with wonky balls.
Is that an old wonky ball, or is that from after you've
No, this is an old wonky ball.
Yeah, there you go.
And then like the tension going through the yarn guide on the ball winder matters a lot. And so the particular problem with this ball winder is that it just has one little coil Um,
Oh, you actually have it back there.
It's strapped down to the table. Otherwise, I'd bring it over.
You can unstrap it. You keep talking.
It doesn't have any other tensioning devices. And I looked up on the manual, like online, and they say, oh, well, you have to tension it with one of your hands. So one hand's winding.
Everything's fine.
One hand's winding and one hand's tensioning.
Yeah.
And it's...
So this is the single tensioning rod that Jill was talking about.
So whenever the tension goes a little bit wonky, whether or not it's from the Swift or with your hand, it's not winding on to this cone part properly. And I think there's a problem with the amount of friction here. Yeah. I don't think there's enough grab because I actually put some super lube here, and I think I screwed myself over.
So
because it was making lively balls before, it was just had a little bit extra friction. So it's not like I'm saying like this ball winder is a bad ball winder. I did something to this ball winder to make it a bad ball winder.
So I will say I really like the design of this initially. It's really pretty. I really like the concept that it works with these different tensions. Most ball winders you see have a lot of gears, and I've run into so many ball winders that the gears just pop out, or you grind off teeth, and you get big problems that way. This one avoids all that problem, so long as you don't put lube where you're not supposed to put lube. So we're gonna fix this guy and make it work again. Because I really like it. I think it's a really neat design and really pretty, and it works great. It has fantastic momentum. So that's why it's just in timeout. It's not in the trash. But so we'll make this guy better.
And then we back to Kickstarter.
Yeah. So talk about that.
We'll put a link up. So there's a Kickstarter currently going on for Tug, which is a new electric ball winder. I think the company is Sawyerby are the people behind it. And so they've got prototypes and everything, and they're just looking for the Kickstarter to get enough funds to do a customized circuit board for the ball winder. And so I've shared on social media, and people are like, well, why is this better than like the Nancy's Knit Neck one? So take this with a grain of salt, because I've used the Nancy's Knit Neck motorized ball winder exactly once. And I have not used the Tug. I have no in-person experience beyond what I've seen in their videos. But what matters to me is, so the Tug, right now, it's only $400 for the motorized ball winder, which is really amazing price because the Nancy's Knit Necks one is $700. And then because of what I've learned with the Struck ball winder, that tension really, really matters. The tensioning mechanism on the Tug is much more like how the thread on a sewing machine is tensioned, which is a much better tensioning mechanism than the coil of wire that like the Nancy Knit Neck uses.
So I will say, I mean, even as a knitter, I hear $400 for a ball winder. Holy balls. That's a lot. But think about this.
And hours of frustration. And it's definitely something that's more geared towards high-end users, shops, and people who...
So it's not for everyone, but if we bring it up just because if you find that you have a lot of wonky balls and it's a problem for you...
You want to make investment in quality equipment.
Yeah. Now, the Strutch, how much was that?
I think those run about $150 new.
Okay. So that gives you the full range. Like
or you can get a cheap one from like Knit Picks for $20.
Yeah. So we started off obviously. We started off with the Knit Picks one. Wasn't terrible. It worked decently well, but like I said, it has plastic gears. The gears will skip. They will. You'll end up getting a wonky ball after about a year of use.
Yeah.
And then you buy a new one, and that's okay.
The one we're using now that is not giving us wonky balls is a Stanwood that I bought off Amazon, which is a mostly metal or high density nylon for the gears, and it's been very good, but I do have issues with the geared system, and it has its own problems because of that. But it makes lovely balls as long as you keep the yarn out of the gears, and sometimes just the handle and the gears it doesn't run as smoothly as I would like.
Yeah. I much prefer something motorized where you don't have to worry about a variable tension, but that comes the cost, or something with a rubber, what do I want to call it? O-ring type of
yeah,
gearing.
Staying away from belts and O-rings is also a possible failure point. And so the tug ball winder, I don't believe relies on belts like the Nancy's Knick-Knack one does. I think it's a direct drive. It has an automatic shut-off when it senses a tangle, which the Nancy Knick-Knack, it just relies on slippage from a belt, which is going to make your belt wear out faster and will also make your motor wear out faster.
You're just a straight-up advertisement now, aren't you?
I want people to also back the Kickstarter because I want my fancy new motorized ball winder, and I won't have to deal with wonky balls anymore.
Yeah.
It's completely self-serving.
So I will say that even if you're not in the market for a $400 ball winder, it is the one that we'd be using at the shop. So you at least get to see it if you visit the shop, or use it if we'll let you press the button if you want. And I will say we are deeply embarrassed because we have unknowingly given some customers wonky balls.
I feel really bad about it.
So if you have received a wonky ball from us, let us know. We apologize. If
I will happily detangle it for you.
Wow, I think you've just made yourself busy for the rest of the year.
I didn't give out too many wonky balls.
Yeah, but detangling a ball is...
I've had to do it because I've wound many wonky balls for myself.
Yeah, well,
we're
sorry.
But you can also use these fancy ball sacks from Steel City Stitcher to control your wonky ball if you ever do have a wonky ball.
Down, wonky ball, down.
So she just posted a big update of ball sacks today, and I had to grab one that matches an exploding TARDIS bag I got from her. So matchy.
All right. Well, so we're jumping around a lot. I apologize.
We are.
But we wanted to get back to sweaters, right? Because it is sweater weather, or will be by the time you finish your sweater. So.
And if you're going to knit a sweater, you're going to be winding a lot of balls. See, it all works together.
It all comes back around the circle. Ball.
Yes. So I really want to encourage you, if you haven't knit a sweater, you should. It will teach you a lot about your knitting or crochet. It may be a frustrating journey, but is a very educational journey. It teaches you a lot about, the importance of swatching, the importance of picking yarn to match purpose. And so what I really want to talk about today is just the part of picking yarn. Because I personally think that unless you are going to just go out and buy the yarn that was already picked for a pattern, a sweater should start with the yarn and then arrive at a pattern.
So what do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is because the yarn you want to use for a sweater is not the yarn that you're going to pick up for an accessory, to make a shawl with, to make a hat with. I think sweater yarns are in a different category than all other yarn.
What makes a good sweater yarn?
So there's a bunch of different things that make good sweater yarn. So things to take into account when looking at sweater yarn is, first you want to look at ply structure. So if you're not a spinner, so yarn is typically made of multiple plies. So in making a yarn, you take fiber and you twist it one way. And then you join it up with another single that has been spun the same direction, or multiple. You can have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. And then you spin them back in an opposite direction.
So I'm going to try and see if I can demonstrate this. So you can see the individual lines from the yarn there. And if I untwist it, you can see how they're sort of coming apart. And I don't know if I can do this.
Buoy has a tight twist. It's
Buoy does have a tight twist. I recently cut my nails. But here, you can almost see the separated yarns there. So the buoy's a 3-ply.
Yes. And so ply structure will play an important part in how the yarn wears. And so a sweater is going to get more abrasion than a hat or a cowl.
Because you're going to swing your arms around, you're going to put a coat on top of it, that sort of stuff.
And so different ply structures, when you have just 2 threads wound together, more of their surface area is exposed to the outside. And so they will have more abrasion, and that's how you get pills. And so it will also be a flatter yarn. When you get into 3-ply and 4-ply yarns, less of the outside of each ply, each single, is exposed to the elements, and for shorter stretches. And so that leaves less chance for abrasion and for loose ends of the fiber to be exposed and become a pill.
I'm going to draw a diagram.
Oh, you're going to draw me a diagram?
I'm going to draw you a diagram. All right, so as Jill's saying, you've got 2 individual yarns. You've got all of this stuff getting worn down. But then even as I add a 3rd one, right, now I've got more areas protected on the inside of the ply structure. There still is a lot of areas, so the more plies you get in the yarn, the better it's going to be, or the better it's going to wear.
Yeah.
And pills, just from a terminology standpoint, those are those little balls that come off of your sweater.
Balls that make your sweater look worn.
They're little short.
They're short fibers that work out.
They get pulled out of the single.
Work out of the yarn.
Okay, so yeah, if we're going to take that long to describe each thing, we're
This is why I was just going to work on yarn this week.
Oh God.
In 2 weeks we'll talk about patterns.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's ply structure. So when I'm picking a sweater yarn, I look for either a 3-ply or 4-ply yarn, or maybe even a cable ply. I haven't actually made a sweater with a cable ply, but I would have no problems with making a sweater with a cable plied yarn. So a cable ply is you take a 2-ply and then you ply it again against itself to make a 4-ply yarn.
Are there any commercial cable plies that
there
you know
are.
Of?
I've seen it from Swan's Island, has a cable ply. There's a couple. They're kind of rare to find a cable ply in mill spun yarn. So that's ply structure. Also, ply structure is also going to affect how much drape you have in a yarn. And for a sweater, you don't want drape, because a sweater is a big piece of fabric, and when it has drape, it grows, and that's when you get sleeves that last.
Can I tell my story?
Yes, how you learned from your first sweater.
My first sweater, which I made how many years ago?
That's many.
Too many. And the reason that this is my second sweater after having so many years is because I first made my first sweater with an alpaca, and I'm guessing it was a 2-ply.
No, I think that was a 3-ply.
Was it the 3-ply? Okay. Well, anyways, it was an alpaca yarn, and that had a lot of drape, and I was like, oh, this is so nice and comfortable, and I wore it once, and it fit really well, and then I wore it, a bunch, and it just kept draping and draping and draping, and then it didn't help that I lost 60 pounds as well, so I ended up with this giant tent of a mass, and I was just, I didn't want to get rid of it, but it had zero use for me anymore.
Yeah, it has since been frogged.
So Jill
and lives
frogged
in
the
stash.
entire thing. So eventually I might make it again because I really liked it. It was wonderful color, very comfortable. But I don't know if I'm going to make it into a sweater because alpaca does tend to stretch.
I was thinking about using it for a crochet sweater. It might have more structure.
Also, I could just knit it like a size too small and then wait for it to stretch out.
Yes. Have a tight gauge.
But yeah, so while drape can be nice and feel nice, keep in mind that that will cause it to grow.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about two more topics. One is spinning techniques. So fiber can be spun worsted or woolen. With worsted spinning, you are only letting twist come into the yarn a very short amount, and usually it's with a prep that is combed. So all your fibers are parallel to each other and all running in the same direction. And this makes a very kind of sleek, very finished, smooth yarn. It's also more dense, but it is better wearing. Most mill spun yarns are worsted spun. Usually when we talk about woolen spun, commercially available, you're talking about things like the Harrisville Designs yarns and Brooklyn Tweed Loft and Shelter are woolen spun yarns.
So what's important to note is worsted spun is different from worsted yarn.
Yes.
Right? Worsted, you can have lace weight worsted spun.
Yes.
So like Jill's saying, for the knitters out there, if you're not going to spin your own stuff and you're looking for a yarn, it'll designate if it's woolen spun and may not say if it's worsted. So if it doesn't say, chances are it's worsted spun.
Yeah. So woolen is you are letting twist into the entire fiber supply and pulling it out. And usually it's with a prep that's a little bit more disorganized, or known as a carded prep. Fibers are kind of a little bit in jumble going which way, and that means it traps more air into the yarn. However, woolen does not wear as well as worsted because it has so much air in it and because it's a little bit fragile. It's probably going to be more likely to pill in a sweater.
So why would you want something like that? Wouldn't be good for sweaters, but what would it be good for?
Hats, stuff that you want to be warm. Woolen yarn is much warmer. It's also lighter. You get better yardage out of a woolen spun yarn.
Okay.
So this is why it's good to be a spinner and spin your own sweater, because you can make a semi-woolen yarn.
Semi-woolen.
And combine what I think is the best of both worlds. So almost all of my hand-spun sweaters have all been a semi-woolen. So it's either been a carded prep that is spun in a more worsted style instead of a long draw style, or typically using comb top but spinning it in a woolen style, usually a supported long draw, where I'm letting the twist go into the fiber supply. And you can kind of tell that by how far your hands are apart when you're spinning. For a worsted, your hands will be together shorter than the staple length of the fiber that you're spinning. For a woolen spinning, your hands are farther apart than a staple's length. So semi-woolen, I find, has a lot more loft than a woolen yarn, but it also has kind of that smoothness and it wears better than a truly woolen yarn. I rarely get pills with my semi-woolen sweater yarns that are 3-ply. So a 3-ply semi-woolen yarn is my go-to for spinning a sweater's yarn.
Okay.
And also the good thing about semi-woolen is worsted yarn, because it's more dense, even if it's 100% wool, it has more chance to drape or feel heavy and affect the gauge. So you may knit a little swatch, and because it isn't a large piece of fabric, the actual stretching won't happen. But then you knit an entire garment like this. This is actually out of a wool cotton blend, worsted, and it has a lot, like, it's stretched out of size than what I planned on it.
Are there any commercial semi-woolens?
Probably the best bet for getting something that's like a semi-woolen is getting something from a local mill. Few of the mills in the U.S. do a fully worsted process with comb top to spinning. So they usually do a carded prep, but worsted style spinning.
So that ends up semi-woolen.
So it ends up semi-woolen. So a lot of, the things that you will get that are made in the U.S., not necessarily hand-dyed bases that are made in the U.S., because those are usually from larger mills. But if you're getting like direct from the source, from a farmer, from somebody who got the yarn made from fleece that they purchased or they raised themselves, that is much more likely to be a semi-woolen yarn.
Okay. And then quickly, I guess, because we're running out of time, you want to talk about the breed characteristics?
Yeah, so we
right?
already talked a little bit about how fiber can affect your yarn for your sweater with your alpaca.
Alpaca's a bad idea.
Alpaca's not a bad idea, but you need to blend it with something else. Right. I have a sweater that's 50-50 wool alpaca, and it's great. It's a little heavy, but it's great for snuggling, and it hasn't had the drape problems. So this is when it's good to know the characteristics of the fibers you're playing with. So alpaca is drapey and heavy. Mulberry silk is also drapey and heavy. They are not perhaps the best ideas unless they are in a, smaller percentage of a blend. Cotton can also be kind of heavy and have drape issues, but cotton mixed with wool makes a really good sweater yarn. So this cardigan I'm wearing is from Sweater from Spud and Chloe, and it's a 50-50 wool cotton blend, and it has worn exceptionally well, and this is machine washable and dry, so it's really easy care, and I think this is the only sweater I've had that I've never had to pill, like deep pill. So blends can be really great for sweater yarns. Add in a little bit of cotton, add in a little bit of silk, not too much. Blend different sheep breeds together.
That's how we got Bowie, right?
Right. So our Bowie DK, which is my dream sweater yarn, it's a blend of 3 different sheep breeds, which each of them have different characteristics. So it has BFL, which is a longer staple length, and so it's really durable, and it's going to help resist pilling in the yarn. But BFL on its own is very heavy and has a lot of drape, so I wouldn't probably ever knit a BFL only sweater. The Shetland has nice loft, and is also very durable. I could see making a Shetland sweater. And then the Manx Lawton has a lot of crimp, which ends up trapping a lot of air. And so the sweaters are very light. There's very good yardage with our Bowie DK. And so with their powers combined, they make a really awesome fiber blend for sweaters.
Yeah, like a Captain Planet fiber pack now for Bowie, now that you've said that.
I'm sure I could do it. And then breeds. So Sweaters are a thing where it might be the time to not go after the softest thing you can find on your yarn store shelf. Because with softness comes a shorter staple length, which means a greater chance to pill. I also find that merino is a little bit over processed, so it has a lot of its crimp taken out of it, and so it has drape issues. Especially superwash merino has drape issues. And so if you're just doing like a stockinette sweater, merino is probably not your best choice, and probably not superwash merino either.
What do you mean by issues in that sense?
The merino is going to pill, and it's going to pill probably the worst of any wools. As you get a longer staple length, you will get less pilling, just because there's less little ends of the fiber that can break off and become pills. So going for something that's more of a medium wool, which might not be the softest, thing on the shelf, but there are plenty of medium wools that are definitely suitable for wearing as outerwear. Shetland, BFL, some Romney, Corriedale. Corriedale makes a great sweater yarn. And so, if you want a sweater that's going to last, look for one of those breeds rather than merino. Polworth, Targhee, Rambouillet, also really good sweater yarn. And then I will always extol the virtues of blends, that you can add a little bit of this and a little bit of that and get something that's better than any of the things by themselves. So I like a little bit of cotton in a sweater yarn. I made a sweater with Sabbatical, which is our merino cotton flax silk yarn, and it is a delight to wear. And I'm just trying to think.
There's a lot of options out there. So
there's a lot of options.
These are definitely things where if you're looking for something in specific, ask your friends, ask us on Ravelry, or more Jill. I'm not on Ravelry too often, but ask one of us, Instagram or anything like that. We'd be more than happy to help you pick your sweater yarn, especially if you're planning on coming to Rhinebeck and you want to get your Rhinebeck sweater done with us. So, yeah. Anything else from the yarn standpoint? I know you had another side to this, but is that for,
so I would start with the yarn. Pick a yarn that you like, that's going to be durable, because a sweater is going to last a long time if it's made out of good yarn, and you put so many hours into a sweater.
If you're going to put that much time into doing this, into knitting a sweater,
you want it to last.
I mean, obviously there's the benefit of knitting, and if you want to just knit it and give it to somebody, okay, fine, doesn't matter. You can make it out of acrylic. But if you want
make a baby sweater out of the finest of fluff.
If you want to have something that lasts, and that's the reason why you're knitting yourself a sweater, then make a good choice. Make something that is going to wear well. And like Jill said, it should be next to skin soft, but it shouldn't be the softest fiber you can find.
Yeah.
With that, we should probably move on, because we're going to hit an hour-long episode this time.
Yeah, well, you got me talking about stuff I like to talk about.
You always like talking about this stuff. That's why we're doing it.
Okay, so next time we'll talk about picking a pattern. So if you want to knit a sweater this fall, I will be there for you. And we can talk about yarn selection, and this is the time to pick a yarn and to knit a swatch.
All right. So we hope to hear from you guys, having picked a swatch by in 2 weeks.
Yeah, get on it.
So in the studio, the big important thing that you're prepping for is visiting Clover Hill this weekend.
Yes. So Hipstrings is coming to Clover Hill Yarns in Catonsville, Maryland. And if you are local, you should come.
And local for Maryland is a fairly large region. So, D.C., Virginia,
Yeah.
Alexandria type area or Baltimore.
So I'm hoping to get there and set up by about 6 p.m. on Friday. And all the goodies will be there till about 3
There's a
on
fantastic pizza
Sunday.
shop around the corner. I hope they're still in business.
They are.
But, okay, good. Yeah, so, make it your dinner plans.
So they have a spinning night on Friday night. So they will be open from 6 to 9 for spinning.
They're open before that too. But
yes, they're open before that too. But they have special late hours on this Friday. They usually close at 6, but this is a Friday. They will be open till 9 p.m. And then I think they also have a knitting group that comes in on Sundays in the afternoon. So what am I bringing? Because I'm not bringing everything. I have
give
to
it taste.
I have to bring what will fit in the back of my Subaru Outback, which is not the size of a 5x8 cargo trailer, which is what we've been taking to shows lately. So, if you plan on coming and there's something you absolutely want to see, please let me know so that I can bring some to you, or at least bring you a sample skein to look at so that you can order online if you so wish. But this is what I'm planning on bringing at this moment. I am planning on bringing all of my hand-dyed buoy DK, as well as the bone, which is the base, the natural base, for that. There are lots of sweater quantities in buoy DK.
You're bringing the buoy bags too?
No, I'm not bringing the buoy bags.
Okay.
I am bringing what I have of Sabbatical, which is a sport weight merino cotton flax silk blend. Thank you. I need to be decorated. And I'm bringing our Ivory Tower fingering, which is an 80% superfine merino, 20% baby camel. It is a 4-ply fingering. It is my favorite fingering that I have yet to find. That is mostly in semi-solid shades, some variegates. I'm going to have some We Belong Together kits of 2 skeins of Ivory Tower. Some of those are one-of-a-kinds for shawls and other projects. We also have kits for the distillation cowl, both the yarn kits as well as some of the fiber kits. Unfortunately, I'm sold out right now of peacocky. Clover Hill will have like 2 bags of peacocky.
We'll be getting some.
We'll be getting some soon. But I'm bringing what I can for distillation kits for fiber, which right now is Blue Heron, which is the one I just showed at the beginning of the show. I'm also bringing Spaced Out, paired up with Pre-Newtonian Rainbow. And I think those are my only fiber kits I have available right now. I'm also bringing my color boxes, which is what I use for that rainbow cowl I've been showing off. I'm bringing Pittsburgh boxes. I'm bringing Favorite Things boxes. Those are the Favorite Things are the last of that version of the Favorite Things. I'll be bringing tools, so the control cards, needle gauges, dizzes, all that stuff, as well as spindles and bowls, and maybe some spindle boxes. And so that's what I'm bringing. I'm also bringing a big box of fiber for Clover Hill to sell in their shop that they will be holding on to. But if there is anything that's not on that list that you'd like to see me bring, please PM me or message me or get a hold of me some way to tell me. And then really the only other thing that's going on in the studio is we're going to have a change of hours for the studio starting August 30th. So basically I'm going to transition to having some daytime hours on Wednesdays from 10 to 2. And that will be every Wednesday. The shop will be open. Come in for lunch and socialize or stop by to shop. And we won't be doing the Thursday night craft night. We'll still have the open studio the first Saturday of every month. And I'm going to see about scheduling some workshops and classes, but that is probably not going to happen until November or December at the earliest.
Oh, we'll talk more about that when it happens.
Yeah, when it actually happens, because the next couple of months are a little bit nuts for us.
Thank you to everybody who has stopped by the shop in the last couple of weeks. We really appreciate seeing you guys, and hope to see you some more. We will be making some announcements about a new knit and spin coming up soon. So we've selected the vendors. We just need to notify them and make sure they still are coming.
Yep.
And we will be coming up going to, after Clover Hill, there's Shenandoah Valley Fiber Festival.
Yes.
Right? And then after that, a new knit and spin. So
and we'll be venturing to Rhinebeck, but we are not vending at Rhinebeck.
Yeah. We're just going to be poking our head where it doesn't belong.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Bye.